Welcome to the Infinity Process Portal Workflow Execution Walkthrough series. In this video, we will explore the Process Details view. So I've logged in as Sales Agent Kelly Wibble, and I'm going to activate the loan request for Captain Dave once again. It's now in the Inform Customer activity. So I'll activate that. This activity is used to review the request one last time and create an ad hoc correspondence to send to the applicant. So let's review the details of the process. The overview displays key information about the process. The first piece of information is the process name. Next to that is an option to open the Gantt chart if configured. And next to that is an option to view the process diagram. So let's open the process diagram. The process diagram displays the overall progression of the process in a graphic form. Each green box indicates a completed activity, while the yellow box indicates the current activity for the process. From this diagram, we can see that the process began at the Enter Loan Request activity. This is the activity we worked in the first video, where we were presented with the loan request information form, and we entered the applicant's name, address, and other information. The data that we entered was held by this loan request data object, and then presented again in the next activity, which is the approved loan request activity. The process is currently in the Inform Customer activity. We know this because of the yellow box around it. When this step is completed, it will advance to the Create Account activity, and when a Create Account activity is completed, the process will be complete. So let's close the process diagram. So returning back to the overview, we see that under Process Name is Process ID. In this case, the Process ID is Loan Approval. The Process OID, the status of the process, the start time, the started by, and the duration of the process so far. Okay, so let's expand the next heading, which is the descriptors. The descriptors are shown in two columns, with the name of the descriptor on the left and the value on the right. So in this case, we have the amount, the first name and the last name. The amount is 3,000, and the applicant's name is Captain Dave. So let's expand out the process history. The process history is the detailed history or audit trail of the process, whereas the process diagram that we explored earlier shows the process path at a high level. The process history provides much more granular information about the process. Process history is presented in a hierarchical form, with the process as the top node and the activities below ordered sequentially. So here we have loan approval as the process. Underneath loan approval, you have the process attachments. If I expand that, you can actually see the two process attachments. You have the descriptors. Any notes are listed here. In this case, we have one note. Underneath the process are the activities. So we have the Enter Loan Request, the Approved Loan Request, and the Inform Customer activities. If you expand these, you can also see their state changes. Expand Approved Loan Request, Inform Customer. So this is a lot of information. Let me collapse this, and we'll kind of walk through what each of these, what information is displayed for each. So the loan approval node displays much of the same information presented above under the overview heading. You have the name of the process. In this case is the loan approval process, when it was started, who started it, and the current status of the process, and the process OID. So if we expand this node, we'll get a bit more information. You'll see the process attachments For each process attachment, you'll see when it was added, when it was last modified, and you can actually view the document. So if you click this, you'll actually be able to view our TIFF once again. Okay. Also listed are the descriptors. So we have the name of the descriptors in the left column. Under details, you'll see the first name is Captain, the last name is Dave, and the amount is $3,000. And any notes are listed here. In addition to the actual content of the note, you'll see when the note was added and who added it. For each activity, we also know when the activity was started, the performer of that activity, when it was last modified, the current status of the activity, and the activity OID. There's also an actions column. In the case of informed customer, this activity is actually open, so we have options to activate it, abort, and delegate. So if we expand an activity, we'll get even more information about the activity. In this case, these are states and state changes. Okay, so the first state for the interloan request activity was that the activity was activated. This column, the started column or the last modification column, either one tells you the date that and time that that activity state changed, and the performer column tells you who initiated that activity state change. So we'll collapse the interloan request activity, expand approved loan request, and you'll see essentially the same, where the approved loan request activity was activated and then completed. The current activity is the informed customer. Here we can see that the informed customer activity was activated. It was then suspended by a sales agent role, and then activated once again, or it's suspended to the sales agent role, and then was activated once again by Kelly Wibble. So the process history contains a lot of information. Some of this information can be filtered or hidden, such as the descriptors or the delegation events, and some entire columns can be removed or reordered for your own preference. So let me show you how to do this. The first thing we're going to do is select the columns. So in this case, maybe we do not care to see the OID, and we prefer to see the last modification date and time next to the started date time. All we have to do is unmark the checkbox for OID, which hides it, and then we rearrange the columns the way we want them, and click apply. Here you see the OID column went away, and the started and the last modification times are next to each other. So in addition to reordering the columns and selecting which columns you would like to see, you can also select and hide pieces of data in the table. For example, if we click this icon, it will hide the non-interactive activities. Okay. We can also hide interactive activities, auxiliary activities, descriptors. Go ahead and click that so you can see what it does. You can see the descriptors disappeared. Enable it back. Delegation events, exceptions, notes, terminated events and state change events. The last two icons on the toolbar basically just expand the entire tree or collapse it. The default filters that are enabled and disabled, and the default column selection order can be set at an individual level by the users themselves, or for administrators you can set them at the tenant level. So let me show you this real quick. So I'm going to go back into the select columns, and I had granted Kelly Wibble administrator rights, which shows her, which enables this text box. So if she makes a change to the column selection order, or enables or disables a column, she can now choose to apply this to just Kelly or to everyone. If she selects everyone and clicks apply, it will apply to everyone in the tenant. So let's get rid of the OID, move last modification up, and click to apply, and this will now apply as the default order for everyone in the tenant. Filters work a little bit differently. We have a configuration panel, so we'll go up and click configuration. In the configuration panel, we'll click Process Context Explorer, and here we just enable and disable the visibility. So if we don't want to see delegation events, we don't want to see descriptors, we just click those, click Save, and upon the next login you will see the changes. So let's move to process documents. Process documents list the documents associated with the process and the notes in a tree form. Here we see two nodes. There's the process attachments nodes and a notes node. Underneath process attachments we see a TIFF, there's a checklist, and a chat transcript. Notice when I mouse over any of these documents, it's underlined, which indicates a link. If I click the chat transcript, it opens. Here I see a transcript of the chat between Kelly Wibble and Karina Eichner. So I can close this. So I can open any of the documents just by clicking them. Same is true of notes. If I click the note, I can see the full body of the note. I also have options when I right-click the nodes. If I right-click Process Attachments, I have option to upload a file or create a new text file. And either of these options, the document will become an artifact of the process. Same is true of notes, where I can create a new note just by right-clicking and selecting Create Note. I have different options on the documents themselves. I can rename or delete the files if I have authorization. I can view the version history, or I can send the file as an attachment in a correspondence. The last heading on the page is participants. This is a listing of the participants in the process. So in this case we see the first and last name, the account, and email. In this case we only have one so far. So now that we've concluded our review of the process details, we can close this view to return to the activity view. This concludes our walkthrough of the IPP Process Details view. This functionality is available in IPP versions 5.1 and later.